it's Karen and
Pluto!
here for Karen and Pluto's on the review channel with another movie review. I actually have to say the bulk of the ones we're doing in this recording, I think we both actually liked. Well, yeah.
I like Cliffhanger.
Yeah, so we're doing Cliffhanger this one.
People don't. I do.
Rated R, 1993, an hour and 52 minutes. I had actually never... Yeah, didn't. I mean, it really kept my attention, and I had never seen this movie before.
Good movie. I like it.
I had heard about it, just had never watched it. So, part of our Sylvester Stallone list. Make sure you check that out. I'm sorry, there are bugs flying around here. I don't know what's going on. Bluto's not doing his job of eating them. So, anyways, we started at the beginning. There's this helicopter rescue of two people that are trapped up on this mountain that's like obscenely high.
That'd be fun.
Sylvester Stallone's character, who's named Gabe for short, he's climbing up to the rescue. The helicopter is on the edge, one edge, the people are on the other side, and here, the two that they're trying to rescue, one of the guys, I have him written down, his name written down later, is also one part of this helicopter rescue unit, mountain unit, whatever they're called.
Mountain unit.
And then, it's him and his girlfriend, who is an inexperienced climber. So they're trying to hurry up and get them both rescued because the other guy, and I can't remember his name.
Michael Rooker.
Yeah, that's the actor, but I don't remember.
I like him. He's cool.
His name. Hold on. Jesse's the girl. Eric? No, that's the bad guy. Anyways.
Who's called Michael?
The other guy, who's the other climber, hurt himself, so that's why they couldn't climb back down. So they get positioned to do this rescue, like they're over on this one cliff, the helicopter's over here, and they do this like line between them. He goes over fine, the wind's picking up, so they're like, okay, we gotta hurry up. So Sarah, who is the girl, Gabe gets her hooked up saying, you know, it's safe, don't worry about it. Well, here as she's going, she's scared. Her harness comes apart. Gabe tries to get out and save her, but she ends up falling to her death.
Yep.
So that's the beginning of the movie, which I knew a little bit of this prior to seeing the movie, because this was like, aren't you surprised? I'm like, no, I kind of knew about this. I don't know why.
You've never seen it.
Yeah. So anyways, we get a cutaway 8 months later. Basically, they're at this U.S. Treasury in Denver. They're arranging for this large amount of money to be flown somewhere, and this random FBI agent is supposed to be doing a transfer, so he's tagging along on this flight.
Yep, you're doing good. I follow.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a little bit of jumping back and forth, but then we jump back to Gabe is basically returning to town. Apparently after everything happened with Sarah, he kind of left town, left everything behind. So he's returning to town, basically him and the one female, Jessie, who was also who was flying the helicopter when the
short-haired chick.
Yeah, the accident happened. And I guess basically they were a couple, and Gabe's kind of returning to get the rest of his stuff. So, Hal, that's the other guy's name. I knew I had it written down here. So Jesse's kind of like, why aren't you staying? You know, we need you here. And he's like, I just can't forgive myself. And she basically blames Hal for taking an inexperienced climber up that high.
Yeah, I can see that.
So,
it's all Hal's fault.
He basically comes and just says, I'm getting my stuff. And he's like, why don't you come with me? And she's like, no. And she basically ends up leaving and going, I guess,
but
quote unquote, going to work back at the rescue place or whatever. So we have the FBI back to them with the money transfer and everything. The agent who is tagging along notices there's a jet flying beside them, like being tracked. Here it turns out the one pilot of the plane and the one other FBI agent are involved with stealing this money.
They're bad.
So basically, they're trying to transfer the money. Like, the one guy, like, basically kills everybody, so we think. And then they're trying to transfer the money over to this other aircraft. It doesn't go according to plan.
Nothing ever does.
Basically, they're shooting each other over things.
Cool.
The money cases end up falling in the mountains, and
cool.
FBI plane crashes, and the other plane with all the bad guys on it ends up crashing because it had damage.
Bad guys and one chick.
So we basically come to this character, Eric Craven, I think. No, I can't remember. I can't remember his.
Crow.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like Eric Craven, and I'm like, no. Eric is this
Craven.
guy. He's like an international bad guy, basically, because I guess
international bad guys.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, like the ones that survived the crash, there's a female pilot named Crystal, so she fakes a distress call.
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
To get help.
Kind of like you.
Yep. So basically, Hal's like, well, I'll go try to see what's going on and everything. Well, Jesse finds Gabe before he leaves town, tells him what's going on, and says Hal is going alone. You need to, basically convinces him to go help him.
He should have just left.
So we go back to Denver, and they're talking about the plane went down in the storm. They were unable to search. Then we find out this other character comes in, and he's like, basically, we've been monitoring this situation for months. The FBI agents we sent that was being transferred was kind of, I don't want to say spying, but supposed to be like trying to figure out what was going on, because they've been, I don't know if money's been disappearing over this time, or they've been finding a lot of suspicious activity.
Oh.
I cannot talk after being at work all day. So we cut back to Hal. He's climbing up, and basically Gabe is waiting. Hal basically tells him, I don't need you to go away. They start arguing over what happens. Eventually they end up going together. The bad guys are up higher tracking what's going on to see who's coming.
Yep.
Basically, they thought a helicopter would come, and that was going to be their ticket out. And Gabe and Hal are like, no, it's unsafe. It's treacherous because it's like storm. Treacherous.
Weather weird. Someone's there.
Bite me. And they're like, with the snow and the wind and everything, I'm going to bop you in the nose. You just smacked yourself in the eye.
It hurt.
So basically, they're like, well, you could know these mountains, and they're able to track the cases. So basically, they use Hal and Gabe to try to track the cases down and get the money back. Well, they send Gabe up the one mountain to get the one case, and at this point, they decide, well, they only need one tracker, so they're going to kill Gabe when he comes down. So Hal yells up, warning Gabe. So in the middle of all this, Gabe cuts the rope. They're starting to shoot. Gabe opens the case and throws the money off the cliff. And this money is not marked or whatever, so it can't go into circulation. But because of the way this Eric character is, he can get it into circulation illegally or something.
Because he's smart.
Yeah, so he's the international bad guy. Razor Ramon. No.
What?
So basically, I say he's the international bad guy like Razor Ramon. I was just being...
Oh, I thought you meant Tony Montana.
No. Oh, yeah, Tony Montana, too.
Okay.
Anywho, from all this gun shooting, it ends up causing an avalanche. So, Jesse...
One of the guys falls off.
Continues trying to call Hal to see how he is.
Open the pub bay door.
And, yeah. Eric has the walkie-talkie, and he goes, basically, if you give any indication what's going on, we're going to kill everybody. So Hal kind of fakes the call. There's something he says, though, that Jesse is able to figure out something's not quite right. So she convinces Frank, who's this older gentleman that works with him, to fly the helicopter to a location where Hal was kind of indicating that they would seek shelter. So she gets there. Gabe shows up, and he's drenched because they took all his climbing gear and protective stuff off of him. So they're worried.
I think he was freezing.
Well, he's drenched too, and sweat and everything.
Oh, I thought maybe you made fell in water.
Yeah, no. So they try to get him warmed up. He tells Jesse what's going on. He basically wants her to go back and call the police. She's like, no, I need to stay with you. So they're trying to get to where the next case is before the other Hal and the bad guys get there. So they eventually get there first, find the money. Well, they make a snowman out to really screw with the bad guys, and they have all the money.
That was funny.
So they eventually discuss talking about doing a trade, and
Forget where you were.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
Oh, you did it again.
So eventually they do find Hal, like one of the guys finds Hal and Jesse, ends up being a fight. They're like sliding down the mountain.
That part's funny.
It's hysterical.
Some people don't like that, but I think it's funny.
It's kind of funny.
I mean, come on, loosen up.
So eventually then they
Have
end
fun.
up taking care of the guy. And then all the bad guys kind of start turning against each other as well, because they're like, okay, why should we listen to Eric? He screwed this all up, or the FBI guy that turned bad and
I thought it was just
everything.
the FBI guy that got mad at him.
Well, I think it was a couple of them, because there was that one guy. Remember, there's those two guys, the one white guy and the one African American guy, kind of butting heads the whole time. And yeah,
funny.
so they eventually order Hal to find shelter, and he ends up taking him to the place that Gabe and Jesse were at earlier. And Eric kind of figures out that they stole like some items from there that they could use for mountain climbing and all that. So
Yep.
they cut away to Gabe and Jesse trying to stay warm, and Gabe is burning the money from the case.
That's funny. Cost a fortune to heat this place.
Hal ends up taking them. There's one more case left. So Hal is taking them. We'll hear Jesse and Gabe figure out Hal's taking them the long way to where the third case is.
Pretty smart.
So Gabe and Jesse try to get ahead of them. They end up going through this cave filled with bats that Jesse freaks out and causes all the bats to fly
She just
out
shut her
of.
mouth. They wouldn't have bothered her, right?
Right.
Right.
So then Frank is out in the helicopter still trying to find everybody. And he ends up... he's out trying to find everybody. He finds the wreckage from Eric's plane, finds Eric's pilot that died in the crash.
They find a surfer dude.
Yeah. Well, then there were these two random teenagers, too, that Frank, one of them ends up getting killed because they kind of get wrong place, wrong time, basically. And the one dude ends up surviving, so Frank takes him back to get medical attention.
Do you, like, scratch your nose?
My nose, my allergies are acting up again.
Okay. I don't know if you need a hanky.
So basically, they eventually figure out, Eric's group figures out that Gabe is coming. So one of the guys stays behind to kind of corner Gabe. They kind of figure out where he's coming out from. So Gabe eventually comes in contact with this one crony. They end up fighting down in the cave and everything. And
that part's cool.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe is literally like getting his ass kicked. And
eventually, he gave him a lift.
Yeah. Watch it and find out. So then, as I have on here, kicking the shit out of Gabe.
Good notes.
Gabe kills him using a spike in the cave floor. So basically,
that's what I said.
Are they stalagmites or whatever that hang from the ceiling? And
I thought it was an ice cube that melted and it came.
I don't know, but he pushes the guy up and kills him.
That's what I said. He gave him a lift.
Yeah.
See?
So Crystal and Eric decide to set a bomb to try to kill Jesse and Gabe. Hal yells to them and lets them know about the bomb so they're able to escape from the explosion, which that whole part's pretty wild. It's very exciting, and you're watching, waiting for this rope to totally break apart.
It's a good movie.
So eventually Frank is still circling. He gets tricked into landing because Crystal lays on the ground like she's hurt.
That's why you don't help people.
Yeah, he lands. He goes over. She rolls over holding a gun on him. Somebody, I can't remember who shoots Frank. Was it Eric or somebody?
One of the bad guys,
shoots Frank because they're like, okay, we're going to take the helicopter. Well, Hal goes running over to Frank. And before Frank dies, he hands Hal a knife that Hal hides in his boot.
He's another guy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got too far ahead.
Gabe and Jesse try to cross the bridge, and here Eric and Crystal rig the bridge, so there's an explosion with that.
That's pretty cool.
Travers, that's the FBI agent that turns bad. I knew I wrote his name somewhere. Guy. Yeah. So Eric and Travers are arguing about finding the last case because Travers is like, well, you need me, otherwise you can't figure out, like, because he has this tracking device that only he knows the code for.
That part's funny.
And then
I like his part.
Travers is holding a gun on Eric, and Eric calls Crystal over, and Eric basically says, you know, about making sacrifice for those you love, and he kills Crystal.
Wasn't it nice of him to do that?
Yeah, and basically what it is
nice.
they have the helicopter, and with Crystal dead, Eric's the only one now that can fly the helicopter.
She sacrificed herself for the team.
So Eric and Travers basically need each other because Eric needs Travers to get the money, and Travers needs Eric to fly the helicopter. So they end up, Eric's like, I'll stay behind. You let me know when you find the case.
Sounds good.
Because the helicopter doesn't have a lot of gas left in it. There's basically just enough for them to escape. So,
moving on.
At this point, Gabe, like, Jesse, you need to go back and get help. And he continues on. Well, she sees the helicopter thinking it. No, that's later. But eventually she sees the helicopter thinking it's Frank, and it's not Frank, it's Eric. But anyway.
Why don't we just get to the cool part?
So,
let's get to the cool part.
Frank gets to the case first. The others arrive.
Then what does he do with the money?
They kept saying it's time to kill Hal. So the one crony and Hal end up fighting. And Hal's hanging off the cliff. He eventually takes the knife out, stabs the bad guy, and throws him off the cliff.
That's funny, too.
Season's over, asshole. Oh, I wrote, because the guy that was beating up Hal, I guess, was a soccer player, and he kept going about kicking and everything.
Oh, yeah,
and right before Hal kills him, he goes, season's over, asshole, and stabs him. And really?
How was he eating steak buns earlier?
Oh, he stabs him in the leg and then shoots him, and he falls off the cliff. So bye-bye, crony. So
he shoots him in the chest with a shotgun, right?
What's up?
Doesn't he shoot him in the chest with a shotgun? I think so. And then pushes him over the side?
So Travers is looking for the case. But the case keeps moving. And what happened is Gabe got there ahead of time, found the tracker, and he put the tracker on a rabbit. So the rabbit's hopping around. And so it looks like the case is moving around. So Travers calls Eric and says Gabe is still alive. And they're on an open line, and basically the FBI are looking for him at that point. So Travers is like, I don't care. And he lets everything loose about who Eric is, what he did, what they were doing. So it's all on there. Because Travers is like, you're going to kill me anyway, so screw you. Here's what's going on.
Yep.
And then he's basically at that point, he goes after Gabe. So Gabe jumps off the cliff. Eric starts to take off. Jesse thinks it's Frank, and that's when Eric pulls out the gun and kidnaps Jesse. I got a little ahead. So Travers is still chasing Gabe. Gabe, I think, got injured sometime, somewhere in there, so he's following this blood trail. And Gabe is hiding under the bridge. He grabs Travers by the ankles.
That was cool, too.
And they both fall through the ice. Or no, Gabe fell through the ice. And Travers tries to start shooting through the ice. And Gabe has a gun, shoots him through the ice.
I follow you. It's a good thing I know this movie, otherwise I'd be like, what?
So basically like I said, you have to watch it. I mean, it's great how it's done with everything. Like,
at least you didn't tell him to chill out, because that would have been stupid.
No, that would have been Schwarzenegger. Anyways, Hal eventually shows up at this point to help Gabe out of the water. Eric then calls to Travers because Hal has the walkie-talkie at this moment. Gabe and Hal kind of answer, and he says about having Jesse, and Gabe says about meeting at the highest point. So they end up going up to this other part of the mountain, trying to negotiate her release for the money.
I like that part too.
So basically, Hal's like, release her, and then I'll give you the money. So he eventually lands, releases Jesse. She runs. He takes Gabe takes the money and throws it, and it's in just a burlap sack at this point. Throws it, and it goes up into the helicopter blades and totally shreds.
But he gave it to him.
Yeah, he didn't specify how to give it to him. So
that's not funny when he said that.
Yeah. So basically, then Gabe and Eric are kind of fighting. Gabe's trying to escape on this ladder. The helicopter gets attached to the ladder. So it's like they're hanging off the side of the cliff at one point, trying to fight in this helicopter. And the helicopter's still going down the cliff. So Gabe kicks Eric into the helicopter, gets on the side of the cliff, and the helicopter crashes into the ground. So eventually Eric's dead at this point, we're assuming. I mean, they didn't make a sequel.
I would think you would.
But I mean,
there was no jump scare.
Didn't it kind of blow up too when it crashed?
Yeah.
Okay. But eventually Gabe gets
Very
back up
good.
to the top of the mountain where Hal and Jesse are at, and the FBI comes by, and they inform him of Eric's death and everything, and they're like, well, it's about at the bottom of the canyon, and they're like, okay, we're going to arrange for transportation for you guys, and then we roll credits.
That's how you end it.
So, like I said,
Cool movie.
I totally enjoyed this movie as I bumped the table. Like I said, I had not seen it. Actually, all the movies we reviewed tonight I had never seen. Like I said, it's very good, very action-packed. Like I said,
It's so boring.
you don't...
No time to rest.
Yeah, like literally, it's like, yeah, it's an hour and 52, but it's like over in a blink of an eye because there's just so much going on. I mean, even starting from the beginning, because you're like, oh my God, are these people going to survive, to the very end where it's like, oh my God, they survived, you know, with everything. And plus, like, it's kind of one of those things like, okay, it wouldn't happen in a million years, but they happen to crash land in their area.
It's a movie.
It's a movie.
Just go with it.
Yeah. So, like I said,
have fun with it.
Definitely recommend it.
Yep.
Definite rewatch value. Rented this off of Netflix on DVD on Netflix, whatever the heck it's called. So, don't personally have it. Might have to get it. What are you?
You're just like... Oh,
I thought you were doing like the whoop, whoop, whoop.
No, I'm going, you're cuckoo.
Oh. So I guess that's him telling me to wrap up. So,
yeah, because I'm kind of getting confused, and I saw the movie a bunch of times.
Bite me. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, bell icon so you know when we post new content. Help share the page. We will greatly appreciate it. Amazon wish list is posted if you would like to help the page out. If there's something you want us to review and we don't have it, I'll add it if you're willing to get it. Otherwise, we'll look into seeing if we have it or a way to watch it.
We'll review it.
Check out my other channel, K-Dog Games, Toys, and More for more.
You said that weird.
I got like a muck in my throat.
I'm sorry, I'm just listening and trying to pay attention.
Check out my other channel, K-Dog Games, Toys, and More for toy and game reviews.
Very good.
A little kid-friendly over there, not so much over here. Like I said, leave a comment if there's something you want us to review. Check out this guy. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.